Welcome to Love Lattes, the podcast designed for women who are ready to stop settling and start living a life full of authentic love, confidence, and real connection. I'm your host, Victoria, the self-love scientist, speaker, and coach, and I'm here to help you reclaim your power, deepen your relationships, and fall unapologetically in love with yourself. So grab your tea, your latte, or your favorite beverage, and let's get started. What if your body wasn't something to control, but something to listen to? What does it mean to have sacred sexuality? And what does that have to do with the body? And how do we embody it? Well, my loves, I'm so excited for today's conversation. You know how much I feel about pleasure, relationships, and intimacy. So we get to spend the next couple minutes with Lisa Beck, an author, TEDx speaker, and founder of I AM Lisa Beck. Lisa bridges neuroscience, sexual energetics, and ancient wisdom to help men and women reconnect with their bodies, awaken desire, and live from a place of truth and devotion. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful and excited for this conversation.
Me too. Like I already was just feeling so warm being able to connect with you after I don't know, it's been like 6 months, I think. So to really kind of kick things off, because I absolutely I love this conversation already, but let's get into it. What is sacred sexuality and why is it so important?
What a great starting question. It's so layered. That's what I want to say. And sacred sexuality first, as women and men too, but our audience is a majority of women, is first of all connecting with ourselves and recognizing that we are beings of pleasure. And the feminine natural essence is to receive pleasure, receive joy, receive money, magnetism, desire. The natural feminine essence is to receive. And our sacred sexuality is a recognition of our eros, of our life force energy within our body, and how we can use that energy for creation in general. Just not just creation of children, but creation of ideas, of movements, of passions, of art, music. And women have this amazing radiance about them when we embody our true authenticity and our sacred sexuality. Our magnetism, our joy will just naturally shine through us. One of the key values that men really gravitate towards in a woman is aliveness. And how alive are you first in your body, in your life, and you in that aliveness embody your sacred sexuality. And then when you take that aliveness into a shared container in with your partner, and you have two different energies, masculine and feminine, or you could even be a same-sex couple as well, and you're bringing two different energies into this sacred container of respect and of joy and of integrity and truth. That is a very, very powerful merging of sacred energies, and we create life with it, whether physically or mentally, emotionally, theoretically.
Oh, I love that. I do feel that you can always sense an elevation in someone's presence when they're so attuned to their sexuality. And I will also kind of just I'm going to put myself out there and say, me.
Yeah, Yeah, yes, own it. Own it, own it, own it.
And I say that with so much pride because I do remember years ago when I felt so contained by the
Hmm.
pressures and the unrealistic expectations and not being in the right relationship at that time. And then just putting in the work and the discovery. So that kind of and I remember like even like last year and the year before that, people were like, oh, you're glowing. What's your secret? And I'm like, oh, well, I like pleasure today, or like I just had this like I had a like if I was dating or in
Hmm.
a relationship, I was like, oh, we just had like the best sex. But for those listening, and like I want to kind of get into this too, you can't, I feel like it's that kind of feeling, that elevated, that like just being able to tap into the creativity, which is what produced the podcast and my other
Hmm.
businesses. Um, I feel that women do tend to feel blocked, whether it's a like it hinders their knowing of like their self-worth, or even that like they're unaware that their sexuality is sacred. So
Yeah,
what do you think it is that holds women back from leaning into that?
yeah. Um, I've thought a lot about this and I've actually done research on like why. And what I've come to realize in physical relationships and even in just daily life, women are giving, 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 giving. They're over giving. And if the woman's natural tendency is to receive, you can't receive when you are constantly giving. So women are giving to their career, they're giving to their children, to their friends, to their family, extended family, to their passions. And they're not allowing space in their life to rest and receive because that is the natural feminine essence. That's how we are able to tap into our mind, our body, our creativity. Um, Women are ignoring our
Mm,
bodies. And we are so into the output of taking care of the children, the career, a partner, managing a household, all amazing things. And our body has what's called an internal resonance system, its own intelligence system. Our body will communicate to us what we need, and it functions very differently than a man's body. And society runs on a masculine system, and it has for centuries.
yeah.
And so you take a woman who runs on a totally different hormonal system, energetic system, and you place her in a masculine system. It doesn't mean she can't do it. It doesn't mean that she can't thrive, even, but she will burn out. And we see that burnout happen in careers. We see it happen in very much in our physical bodies, where different dis-ease or situations will come up in the physical body. They just don't have enough energy to keep outputting. And so that's where the block is coming from, is ignoring what our body is telling us what we need society wise, of what is being asked of women. And it started kind of with the feminist movement. Women can do everything men can do. Yes, and we run on an entirely different system.
Mhm.
And ignoring our intuition and ignoring our physical body, that is what holds us back the most. And I speak from the very much experience in my own life.
Absolutely. And I'm really glad you brought up, we are there, we have these different programs like in our systems. Like, yes, like even if you think about the hours and the timelines, it's all based on the masculine calendar. I
Mm-hmm.
remember learning about the feminine calendar based on our cycles, and it just blew my mind. I was like, why aren't we adapting this more to society? But that's another conversation.
Yeah, that's another whole rabbit hole. Yes,
Um,
yes.
So with people understanding, I'm sure listeners are like, "Oh wow, like I know." And even myself, like I was a like knee-deep people pleaser.
Mm-hmm.
I I got my validation externally
Yes.
until I burned out several times. And then I started recognizing and discovering my own self-worth. So if our listeners are listening to this conversation and they're like, me too, like I out, but I'm also a little, sexuality I have I've learned over the course of years, and then even having the conversations with clients, it can be a topic that they're like, it makes them shy. It makes them scared, nervous. So what are some practical ways where one could start leaning into their sacred sexuality?
Yeah. Oh, I love this question show so much. Um, it first, I like to have people just write down, make a list of everything that takes your energy because our eros, our sexual energy is within us. And we need to identify first what takes it because how many women their husband is like poke 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 or partner poke poke poke, hey tonight, and they're like, oh, women are, oh, I'm just too tired, I can't tonight. That is because they have so much taking away their energy that they don't have any left to connect sexually.
Mm,
They don't have desire. Women, in order to feel desire, women need to be desired. And so that's also important to recognize that, okay, first of all, start with yourself. Am I showing myself devotion, De- desire, and devotion? How can I be more devoted to myself, to turn myself on? And we often don't think of that. Like, what turns you on? And I'm not just talking about sexually, but I mean aliveness. What turns you on to life? Like, as you mentioned earlier, like people are always like, wow, you're glowing because you are alive and you are following what turns you on, what ignites you. And that will ignite in the bedroom.
mm,
That will allow your partner to be like, oh my gosh, I can't keep my hands off you.
mm,
And it creates this polarity. So, what we're looking for in relationships is polarity. The men are devoted to their sacred partner, and the women receive this devotion just for them stepping into their own aliveness and their radiance. So, to go back to your question, tangible aspects, write down everything that's causing energy leaks in your body: children, work, passions, partner, family. And you could even go deeper of like aspects of your career, aspects of parenting, and figure out how you can plug those leaks, ask for more support, manage things differently. Asking for support is a big one and also can be really hard for a lot of women because they're having to rely on someone else. Of course the woman can do it. You know, she knows the plan, she knows how things work, but it's also trusting and relying on someone else to help support them. Like in our career, we delegate. Can you delegate in your home life as well? And then tuning into your own pleasure. What makes you feel um, desired,
mm.
right? Like, is it resting, reading, being out in nature, going for a walk, a hair color, a nice outfit, getting ready in the morning, work, moving your body, connecting with your body? So, for women, that is also going to be very important, is finding out what brings them pleasure, what brings them desire, and making space to add that into their life or make it a priority. And it doesn't have to be this all encompassing routine. It could be 10 minutes in the morning where you're just like breathing and connecting with your body or moving a little bit, or just the intention of what brings me joy. Today, I'm going to do one thing that brings me joy.
Oh, I love that. And I do think it's important that you did bring up, even just allowing yourself those few minutes, whether it's like you have your hand on your chest and you're taking a couple breaths, because you are creating this connection. And I have found over the years of like I'm always pushing and empowering women about self-love. And when people ask, like, well, what does that look like? I'm like, you're literally nurturing the relationship with yourself so that the other ones can thrive.
Yes.
And I feel that, even like you mentioned, like your partner, when you're turned on, tapped into your sacred sexuality, your partner's like, oh my God, like I have to have you. And when a woman, it reminds me of this, like I used to say, you may have heard it too, but when a woman is tuned in, her world is turned on.
Yes.
And when people hear this, like I want to preface that it's not always like about this like explicit, like it's like sex all the time. It's you're literally living in an embodied version of yourself where, like everything just feels lit up, like you said.
Yes. Yes. And I also want to reference to this is also important for our sacred sexuality, for intercourse, because a woman really desires to be met in her allness, in her wild feminine being. In order to do that, she has to have a safe container.
Mhm.
And so for sexual exchange to be sacred, to be as pleasurable as both partners would like it to be, the container has to have boundaries, it has to be safe. So that looks like between you and your partner. And if you're not in a relationship currently or you're dating, it's also being very, very mindful of the energy and the person that you let into your life and into your body.
Mhm.
Because every time we have a sexual exchange, energy is exchanged. So you are taking on the energy of the partner that you are having intercourse with, and vice versa, they're taking on your energy. Now, the cool thing about women is part of our menstrual cycle each month is to purge ourself of energy that is stuck within our womb. Like, how cool that our body actually does this. And then we go through menopause and we stop menstruating, but by that time, our body historically is like, oh, we are in a safe container. And
Mhm.
so we don't need to purge as often. And so it's important to recognize that we can leak energy through sexual intercourse in a wrong container. And that is actually going to take away from a woman's liveliness, from her radiance.
Mm. No, thank you for saying that. I think that's actually a very powerful, but also it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think it's so easy. Like we all like the idea and concept of sex is like it can be physical, absolutely, but we're not really paying attention to the fact that down at the cellular level, like some things are happening and
Mm-hmm.
you wonder why, in some instances, maybe you are done and then you move forward and you're like, but why do I feel so held back? Because you're still attached
Yeah.
energetically.
Yeah.
And the other side of that is, when I was, I was in a really great relationship and the sexual chemistry that we created, that desire between the two of us was so it was intense, but it was so beautiful and so profound. So the afterwards, it was like, yeah, I'm like such a goddess. And I feel that, I couldn't get into that space until those things, like you said, you established safety and there
Mm-hmm.
I was more connected and tuned into myself. So I knew and I created a boundary, like who I would allow my into my bedroom, really.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I think that's important for women to realize, like, yes, I understand, like in this day and age, dating is hard, relationships can feel
Mm-hmm.
slow. However, when you have those values and that recognition of like, actually, I'm gonna say no, or you know what, I'm gonna listen to myself and it's not the right
It's
time.
not the right time. Yes.
You're
Yeah.
honoring that.
Yes, you are not betraying your body. And so many times, men and women, we betray ourselves in this way where we are seeking love, validation, support, right, externally. And so we ignore ourself, what's true to ourself, because we're seeking, like you said, outwardly. And I remember I was in a my previous relationship, I was in a relationship It was great. Great, great man. A safe container, a very safe container. And looking back, I also see how, oh, our sex life was him taking, me giving. It wasn't an equal energy exchange.
Mm.
He was, and so it can look like even in a safe container of a partnership, it was a little lopsided. It was more him take for his pleasure alone instead of worshiping the goddess, right? Instead of being in devotion to the feminine. So men, their three like primal needs are protect, provide, and please. And if they are wounded, if they are still on their awakening or healing journey, they're going to do that for themselves instead of externally providing for the woman, pleasing the woman, or it will look like a false sense of pleasure.
Mm.
We'll be back after a quick break.
I've been thinking a lot about patterns lately, especially the ones that show up in our relationships. For a long time, mine looked like overgiving, people pleasing, and convincing myself that if I shrink myself down just a little bit smaller, I would be enough. But knowing a pattern and actually breaking it are two very different things. And trying to untangle that alone can feel overwhelming. That's where therapy can help. Having outside support can help you recognize your patterns without judgment and make choices that actually support you. And that's why I'm grateful for today's sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp makes therapy more accessible by connecting you with a licensed therapist online so you can get the right support in a way that fits your life and your schedule. Love and Latte listeners can get 10% off their first month of therapy by going to betterhelp.com/love and lattes or by clicking the link in today's episode description. Breaking cycles isn't about fixing yourself, it's about learning to love yourself differently.
Ooh, that was big. I've never thought of it that, but I think that it does make sense. And I thank you for sharing that about your history. So to me, it sounds like, would you say in that relationship dynamic, it was like you would lean into pleasure, but it was for him?
Yeah, or it would be like I would initiate and he would be like, "Oh no, not the right time. Like
Mm.
I'm not feeling it." Or it would be very, yeah, more about his pleasure and like his timing when he was feeling it, and then it turned into less about the female foreplay. Let's draw this out and really create waves of pleasure and deep intimate connection in multiple ways. It was kind of like, let's get it done.
Oh, like a task. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like a masculine task, check it off.
Yeah.
And for him, that's what he knew. That was
Right.
safe for him,
Yeah.
right? That was familiar for him. So it really it, I'm not I have no feelings. It was what it was in that container of that relationship. And I see how, oh, it's important for me to experience that. So on the other side, I can say, oh, wow, I see where I didn't have boundaries or I didn't communicate my needs and what I wanted. And, but when I was in it, I didn't really know. I knew something was off, but I couldn't put words to what I was feeling.
Yeah. No, I know exactly where you're coming from. And you said something, and this will be like my second to last question before we wrap up. But for those who are dating or even in relationships, I have found and heard that there does have that conversation of, well, they're just not interested in me sexually, or when we want to have sex, it's in quotes, not the right time. So how does a woman who wants to lean into sacred sexuality with her partner or while they're dating, how do we create it's not that we want to avoid it, but how do we not take that statement? Because we'll take it personally, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's
Yeah.
it's wounding me, and I desire, like as a woman, like I desire pleasure, and I don't want this sacred sexuality to become a convenience. So how can couples navigate that?
Yeah, great question. And it starts with having open conversations. And so it starts with being brutally honest of first what with yourself, or like what are your needs? What needs are not being met? And what do you want? And what do you not want? That's one aspect. And then it's having that conversation in a way with your partner where first of all creating a safe container to have that conversation so it doesn't get you and divisive, and then both partners feel rejected and walls go up, so then it's just defense defense defense. But to have a really open and loving container of, hey, I want our intimate time together to be really sacred. I want to create this container of deep pleasure, and also recognize that doesn't happen overnight. It
Mhm.
happens gradually, and you learn from each other in the moment. And even in the moment during your sexual adventure with your partner, it's not staying silent, but giving feedback. Yes, I like this. Oh, no, not there. Oh, I'm feeling this. And and if you are in the moment being like, oh, I don't have the energy, I don't have the time to, I'm not feeling it, then it's exploring that in yourself of why, what is taking from you in your days that is not allowing you to have this time to connect with your partner, and having that conversation with your partner and asking him, hey, I think what would help is if you blah 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 blah. Maybe it's taking something off of their plate, or taking them on a date or a vacation or a getaway, like something where you can create an environment that is conducive to devotion and desire.
Mm. Oh, I love this. This has been such a great conversation, Lisa. And I do think when it comes to partnerships, in my opinion, and I have read through the text, to be in a sacred sexual partnership is to create that desire between both energies,
Mm-hmm.
and one of my favorite things, and I still carry this with me to this day, is like I love being in partnership with someone that I want to create desire and give them pleasure, and it's being reciprocated, and that's
Yes,
a empowering place to be in.
yes, yes, very much so, very much so.
Well, Lisa, this has been such a great, like, sexy conversation. Um, is there anything that you would love to share with for our listeners as we wrap up today's conversation? Maybe something that they can take home with, or just like if there's anything else that you think like, oh, like I learned this, or one more thing I would love to share. Like, what would
It all starts with communication and opening and having that communication. Women love to just assume that men understand our needs and understand us and communicate like we do. And again, it's two separate operating systems. And so it is detrimental to start to understand how your partner communicates so you can speak their language and vice versa. So men communicate logically and point by point, and it's direct. So if a woman says, hey honey, can you help me? He's like, help you with what? Like dishes, children, work, taxes? I don't know how to help you. And he's so afraid of doing it wrong that he just kind of freezes. Versus if a woman were to say to another woman, hey, can you help me? A woman can see, oh, yeah, she needs help with the dishes because then that leads to being prepared for dinner, and then that will help with the kids. That's just the way a woman's brain works. A man's brain does not work that way. So, when it comes to pleasure, being very direct in how you communicate with your partner. Honey, I need foreplay. I need physical touch. When you kiss my ear and come up behind me and hold me, I feel really safe. And that turns me on. And so the more you can have direct communication with your partner, the more you will receive that pleasure from your partner, instead of just saying, "Hey honey, I'm feeling sexy. Let's do something."
Right. Oh, that's a really good point. And it is absolutely okay to share. And the same thing goes in your personal practices as you're leaning and discovering and growing and like adding, creating your sacred sexuality. Just understand that your partner or partners down the line, they are not going to know you. They will only know what they know and assume that it all works the same. So only you have the power to take what you've learned for yourself. And like I've experienced this, Lisa, if you want to
Mhm.
chime in too, but I have found that it is so empowering, and your partners, whether it's, a man or same sex, they get so turned on when they find out exactly what you need, because at the end of the day, like everyone just wants everyone to feel good.
Yes, yes. And I just want to hit this one key point, and I don't want to take away from anyone who has experienced any sort of sexual pain, sexual abuse, sexual assault, any trauma around sex. I do not want to take away from your needs and your experience. And it is very important that you feel safe within your body
Mm-hmm.
before you connect with anyone else. And when you feel yourself contracting, that is a sign that your body is still in a trauma response, which is not a bad thing. It's your body processing and trying to find safety. And it's very important for you to take space and time and communicate that with your partner, because your partner, more than anything, wants to protect you and keep you safe and provide you with pleasure and allow your body and your system to relax. And so that starts with you knowing your history, what are your triggers, and allowing yourself to be witnessed in that trigger. That is one of the biggest avenues to healing, is allowing yourself to be witnessed within your trigger.
Mm. Thank you for addressing that. I also feel that that is very important
Mm.
for people to understand with any level of trauma, that you are allowed to take as much time as you want in the
Yes.
process, because as we've said earlier in the conversation, any kind of like connection through even foreplay, kissing, just physical touch in general, there's an exchange happening, and you're allowed to take as much time. Like if you're not ready right now, that's okay. Use the resources and the questions that Lisa talked about on discovering your own version of sacred sexuality, because they're not the same. We're all different, but
Yeah.
we all, especially for women, we're all wired for pleasure, and every one of us is worthy and deserving of experiencing that, especially in this lifetime. So,
Yes. 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 Yes.
Lisa, thank you so much for being on Love Lattes. This has been such a fun conversation and a sexy one for sure. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
And everyone else, thank you so much for listening to our sexy episode. And we'll see you in the next one.